Welcome back. Speak Your Truth, Poetry Podcast. And I'm glad you're here today. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but I feel like it's been longer. I feel like it's been a real long time, like a couple months, bro. Um, since I recorded, but yeah. Anyway, as always, we're not scrolling, we're not rushing. We're just vibing here, just chilling. In the last few episodes, we've been walking inward through depression, anxiety, resilience, self compassion, and the quiet strength of community. We explored the rooms inside us where words echo loudest. Today, we step outside, out of the noise, out of the screens, out of the constant asking to be more, do more, explain more. Today, we enter the oldest classroom there is, nature. Nature's always been a poet. Long before paper, long before language, long before we learned how to name what we feel. Its verses arrive as seasons. Its metaphors move as tides. Its wisdom doesn't rush to be understood. A tree doesn't hurry its growth. A river doesn't apologize for its bends. A storm doesn't explain itself before it breaks. And still, they teach us. Not through instruction, but through presence. Nature shows us how to endure without hardening, how to change without losing ourselves, how to rest without guilt. It reminds us that shedding is not failure, that stillness is not stagnation, that cycles are not mistakes. So today, as you listen, I invite you to slow your breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the world wait. We're not here to conquer anything. We're here to notice, to listen, to remember what we already know deep down. Because sometimes the truest poetry isn't written, it's lived. And nature has been whispering it to us all along. When life feels hurried, nature doesn't rush to keep up. It waits. A single tree stands through decades of weather, heat, cold, storms that tear at its branches. Still, it grows. Not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. A tree teaches endurance without bitterness. It doesn't harden itself against the wind. It learns how to bend. A river teaches us movement without force. It doesn't fight the land. It listens to it. Curves when it must, narrows, widens. Still, it keeps going. Nature never mistakes flexibility for weakness. These lessons don't arrive as lectures. They don't shout instructions or demand improvement. They arrive quietly. A dawn that returns every day, even after the darkest night. A seed that grows in darkness first, unseen, uncelebrated, patient. Nature reminds us that growth is often invisible before it is undeniable. Poetry learns from this. A poem doesn't force meaning. It allows it to emerge, line by line, breath by breath. Like nature, poetry trusts timing. It understands that some truths can't be rushed into clarity. They need space. They need silence. When we read or write poetry shaped by the natural world, we're not looking for answers. We're practicing attention. Attention to small things, to cycles, to repetition, to the quiet reassurance that nothing meaningful is wasted. The fallen leaf is not failure. Winter is not a mistake. Stillness is not absence. Nature shows us how to live without panic, how to trust, process over urgency, how to keep moving, even when the path doesn't go straight. And in listening to these lessons, we remember something simple and ancient. We were never meant to bloom all at once. From ancient haiku to contemporary verse, poets have always turned to the earth for guidance. Not because nature is distant, but because it's familiar. Before we had clinical language, before we had diagnoses and labels, we had weather. A storm to hold grief, sunlight to name hope, winter to allow rest without apology. Nature gives us a way to speak without confessing too loudly. It lets us tell the truth sideways. When a poet writes about thunder, they're often writing about anger. When they write about drought, they're writing about absence. When they write about spring, they're daring to believe again. This isn't avoidance, it's translation. Because some emotions are too large to face head on. They need metaphor to soften the entry. When we write about a mountain, we're also writing about endurance, about weight, about the long patience of becoming. When we write about a garden, we're writing about care, about tending what might not bloom right away, about returning even when the soil feels tired. The landscape outside mirrors the landscape within. A calm lake can hold a restless mind. A tangled forest can explain confusion better than any explanation ever could. Poets turn to nature because nature does not interrupt. It does not rush the telling. It doesn't demand solutions. It allows us to sit beside what hurts until it tells us its shape. In nature, nothing is judged for changing. Nothing is shamed for needing time. Nothing is broken for being cyclical. That permission matters. So when poets write about rivers and stars and fields, they aren't escaping reality. They're grounding it. They're reminding us that our inner lives are not separate from the world we walk through. We are weather too. We are seasons too. And poetry, like nature, gives us a language that says, you're allowed to feel this without explaining it all the way. Here's a poem for anyone who's tired of forcing answers, for anyone who's learned strength as tension and is ready to learn it as release. This is for those standing at the edge of something uncertain, wondering whether to push through or wait. This poem listens to the river and trusts that it knows what we are still learning. It's titled, The River Knows. The river does not argue with the stones in its path. It bends, it sings, it continues. It does not name resistance as failure. It learns the shape of what stands before it and moves accordingly. Sunlight touches the surface, and what was once dark becomes a ribbon of silver, carried forward without being erased. The river remembers every storm, yet carries no resentment. What tried to stop it now helps guide it. I sit beside its patient curve and feel my own urgency begin to loosen. I learned that not every obstacle must be fought. Some are meant to be flowed around. Some are meant to be worn smooth by time and presence and staying. The river does not rush its rival. It trusts distance. It trusts repetition. It trusts that movement, no matter how gentle, is still movement. It teaches me that yielding is not surrender, that patience can be an action, that survival does not always roar. Sometimes it hums. The river knows where it's going, even when the path curves out of sight. And in listening, I remember something ancient inside myself. I don't need to break what stands in my way. I can become steady enough to pass it. The river knows, and if I listen, so will I. If nature has been teaching us anything so far, it's that wisdom doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives through attention. Here are a few simple ways to let nature guide your poetry without forcing it to perform. First, silent observation. Set aside 5 minutes. No phone, no music, no need to write yet. Choose one detail. A single leaf, a crack in the sidewalk, the way light moves across the wall. Notice without judging. You're not hunting for meaning. You're allowing it to show itself. Write down only what you see, hear, or feel. Not what it reminds you of. Not what it should mean. Just what is there. Second, seasonal reflection. Ask yourself, what season you're living in right now? Not on the calendar, but inside. Are you in a season of growth, shedding, waiting, or quiet recovery? Write one stanza connecting the world outside to the weather within you. Let the seasons speak without explanation. Third, nature as a metaphor. Choose an emotion without carrying it. Choose an emotion you've been carrying. Joy, fear, longing, exhaustion, hope. Now look for it outside yourself. Is it a river, a storm cloud, a stubborn weed pushing through concrete? Write the feeling as if it were that thing. Don't name the emotion directly. Let the image do the work. And remember, you don't need a mountain or an ocean. A backyard holds stories. A city park knows patience. A window understands longing. Nature is not limited by location, only by attention. If you feel stuck, return to stillness. Return to looking. Return to listening. Poetry grows best when it is invited, not demanded. When you return indoors, don't rush to leave everything behind. Bring a fragment with you. A color, a sound, the way the light rested on something ordinary. Write it down, not to preserve it perfectly, but to remember that you noticed. Let that small detail be proof that slowness is still available to you. Nature doesn't ask us to change overnight. It teaches us change as a practice, season by season, moment by moment. Patience is not passive. It is an active trust that growth is happening, even when it's quiet. Quiet strength works the same way. It does not announce itself. It shows up consistently, unseen, until one day you realize you've been standing longer than you thought you could. When the world feels loud again, remember this. The same forces that move rivers, that return spring, that teach trees when to let go, are still at work inside you. You don't lose that wisdom when you close the door. You carry it in your breath, in your pace, in the way you choose to respond instead of react. Nature's poetry never ends. It does not demand attention. It waits patiently. And whenever you're ready, it begins again. The moment you notice. All right. Thank you all for spending this time with me on Speak Your Truth Poetry Podcast. Thank you for slowing down, for listening with more than your ears, for letting stillness have a voice today. As you move back into the rhythm of your day, may the earth's quiet wisdom walk with you. May it remind you that growth does not need permission, that rest is not something you earn, and that patience is not time wasted. When things feel uncertain, may you remember the river. When things feel heavy, may you remember the tree. When things feel overwhelming, may you remember that seasons always change. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are moving in your own time. Carry what you notice today with you. A line, an image, a breath. Let it anchor you when the noise returns. Until next time, stay grounded, stay grateful, and always, always speak your truth. Peace out. Nature as a poetic teacher. I learned patience from a tree that never asked if the storm would pass. It just stood, roots deep in questions, branches full of trust. I learned movement from a river with no fear of the bend, no shame in slowing, no rush to pretend it was ever meant to be straight. I watched sunlight take its time, breaking dark into gold, like hope does when it shows up quiet and bold. Nature never lectures, it repeats. It shows you the lesson until you are ready to meet it. A lesson never apologizes for changing its mind. Winter rests, spring remembers, summer burns, fall lets go. Right on time. I used to fight the stone in my path. I thought strength meant force, meant impact, but the river whispered a softer attack. Wear it down with presence, not wrath. I sat still long enough to hear myself breathe, felt answers rise without being retrieved, no search bar, no need to believe, just listening, just being, just leaves. Poetry lives there, in the noticing, in the pause between what hurts and what is healing, in the space where meaning is not screaming. I wrote about storms, so I did not have to say grief. I wrote about dawn when I could not say belief. I wrote about gardens, when I needed relief from a world that demands too much proof to feel peace. Nature taught me I do not have to bloom fast. I do not have to explain my past. And I don't have to outrun what did not last. I can grow unseen, like roots in the dark. I can trust the quiet. I can trust the spark. Because everything living moves at its own speed. And nothing meaningful rushes to be seen. So carry it with me. Inside walls, inside noise, inside days that feel too small. A leaf, a line, a remembered sound. Proof that grounding is still around. The river knows, the tree knows, the seasons speak. And if I slow down, I can hear them in me. I am not late. I am not weak. I am learning a language that does not need speech.